Hi, my name is Jace. Today I'm going to be talking about a new command. Jesus was a really controversial character in his day. The Jewish people have been expecting a Messiah for a long time, and he didn't really fit the profile of what they were expecting. He came in, and some of the controversial things he did is he made a different summary of the Ten Commandments. He said that the greatest commandment is to love love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength. But also the second is just as important, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. He took 10 commandments that said things like, don't steal, don't covet your neighbor's wife, honor the Lord your God, and he summarized them into two specific categories. And not everybody liked that. He continued by deepening our understanding of these commandments as well, to see that these commandments weren't set up specifically to give us a list of rules to follow, but to emphasize the grace of God, that we are supposed to rely on God's grace, that we can't fulfill the commandments on our own. He did this by saying that you feel like you don't commit murder, but I tell you that if you have hate in your heart, that is just like committing murder. He said that if you just look at someone with lust in your heart, it's just as if you had committed adultery. And so he sets this precedent up where we feel like we've done a pretty good job. We feel like we've followed the commandments, that we've done what we're supposed to do. And Jesus comes in and says, it's impossible. You can't do it because you're not perfect. You need grace that's supplied by God. And you'll see when you read through the book of John, today I'm going to be talking about a new command, and it's John chapter 13, verse 34 through 35, which says, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. You'll find in chapter 13 in the book of John that it's a turning point in the narrative. It's an introduction to the Passion narrative, which is Jesus preparing to go to the cross to sacrifice himself for our sins. When this happens, Jesus takes the disciples into the upper room, and he sits down with them, and he washes their feet. The very first thing you find Jesus doing is he serves them. Washing feet in biblical times was not a pretty thing. People wore sandals, they had dirty feet, they're crusty, nasty. I don't like my own feet, and I wear shoes most of the time. But Jesus gets down on his hands and his knees, and he takes a wash basin and a towel, and he washes the feet of his disciples, the people who are supposed to follow him as though that he was a rabbi. And there's some controversy there just because it's unheard of. You don't do these sorts of things. But Jesus sets an example of servant leadership. He gets down, he washes their feet, and then he partakes in the Last Supper with them. He sits down, and he eats the Last Supper. So I think you'll often find when you look at the lives of others that when they're getting ready to move into, they know that they're dying, that they want to set up a legacy, that they want to be able to share the most important things with the people they have around them. A lot of times you'll see war veterans who have really kept up their feelings inside for most of their lives, sit down with their loved ones, their children, their wife, and tell some of the stories of things that happened to them in their lives, to give them a direction, to add significance to their life. And though I don't think Jesus was adding significance to his life at all, he did want to summarize his teachings to what he had been sharing with the disciples. And this is when he sits down with them and says that I'm commanding you to love one another. He takes the 10 commandments and he really stretches it out, and he drives it forward and says that you will be known that you followed me by how well you love one another. And it's really interesting that the word that he uses for love is the word agape. It's not used very often in the Bible, and it's when you look up the definition of agape, often you'll find that it means selfless and sacrificial. But there's another word, another definition of agape that I found really, really interesting, and I think it's important to note, and that is it's been used in many ancient texts to define the love that a parent has for their child. So this is a picture of my daughter. Some of you guys have met her. Her name's Kira. She's 3 and she's adorable. And there's been so many times in my life where I've looked at my daughter and I just love her. Fully, self-sacrificially, and I would do anything for her. But when I look at the love, it's not that she can walk all over me, but it's that I have an endless love for her, that I will accept her no matter the decisions she makes in her life, the changes she makes. I will always accept my daughter, but I will always correct her as well. And it's lovingly. And I think that when we look at how we're supposed to share Christ's love with the world, we should be accepting of others, that we should be have an endless patience for them, that we should be able to reflect God's love. We're made in the image of God, and we should be a reflection of that love to the world. but we should also remember to rebuke lovingly, to correct lovingly, and above all else, make sure that others see that love that God shares with us and reflects to him. And then Jesus continues to set this example after the Last Supper by sacrificing himself on the cross. God says that, or Jesus says that we're supposed to follow his example, that we're supposed to love the world just as he loved us, and then he died on a cross. And I think that that's really important to pay attention to and to take into consideration. And I would challenge you to think about that and to see how you could better love the world around you, how you could better love those who sometimes feel loveless, just as Jesus loved us.